Hey everybody, Mags here. We are going to review some of the hints and tips that we've been given this year on the Dynasty Hotseat. If you are new here, do me a favor, can you like, comment, share on this video for me, please, like you can see here. And then also, if you're new here, why not hit that subscribe button too? It really helps out. Right, on to the hints and tips.
Yeah. So I guess I'll preface this by saying a couple of things. The Dynasty format is the newest format in my arsenal. I've been playing Dynasty for about 4 years now. I've had some like kind of deeper bench keepers where you keep 7 or 10 or as many as you like at whatever rate. But I am, relatively speaking, new to these Dynasty waters. If you're tuning in on YouTube and you want to show me some support, hit that like button as I get myself into the inferno, and I am eyeing that Hall of Fame. We are on a specific mission here. So I'll say that, but the first kind of point that comes to mind for me as I've gotten acclimated to this game over the last 4 or 5 seasons is there's kind of a trope around the Dynasty game to do with the idea of a 3-year window. Every time that I hear someone talking about Dynasty, it's always, yeah, you have to keep this 3-year window in mind. And I feel like the way that I originally interpreted this and the way that it's largely interpreted when people say it is that it means that you need to be setting yourself up so that in 3 years' time, you can have a competitive team. And I think that's absolutely horseshit. The way that I evaluate my Dynasty teams is I look at them and I say, is this team currently in a window where it can be competitive for a title for the next 3 years? What needs to happen for this team to be in a 3-year window of being competitive? So I just, again, as I'm kind of getting acclimated to this game, it's been a few years, so maybe I can't play the rookie card anymore. But it seems like people kind of hang on to this 3-year window concept, and they're just always hanging on to it. They're always 3 years away, right? So like the can just keeps getting kicked down the road, and they never really make that paradigm shift where they're really making a push to be competitive in the immediate term. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I don't know if that's something that we want to kind of talk through here or just kind of leave it out in the wind.
No. I think you're just right. Like you're not wanting to. Well, generally, what I think whenever I'm playing Dynasty, I either want to come first in my league or I want to come last, and nothing really in between. I want to know a team I can definitely win this with this year right now, or I'm going right. Let me get as many assets as I can possibly get. And with the way that these rookies have been playing, like you don't need 3 years to build a team. Like if you look at a team based off just like rookies from last year and players from the class before that, the players that you could have in your team, like you could have from 2 years ago, you could have Joe Burrow, you could have Jamar Chase, you could have Justin Jefferson, you could have all of these amazing players like Kyle Pitts. You could have a win now team if you blow up your team and draft properly. It doesn't need to take 3 years to build a win now team. It could be just a smart drafting decision. So I think you're either wanting to win it all this year or blow the whole thing up and try again. And hopefully it doesn't take 3 years, because you're right. It's a lot of times you can end up just kicking the can down the road again and you're just stuck in the middle, which is not anywhere you want to be.
Yeah, it's the thing that I've learned in playing this game is that there's so much variance week over week and year over year that it's really hard to forecast accurately that far out, right? So it's more so kind of the context by which I evaluate my team, right? And like I mentioned before, if I have a competitive team, the first question is this team going to compete for 3 years? I mean, even to say you have a league winner, I think is kind of a farce, right? Like so many things have to break right in order for you to say, I have the winning team before you actually get through the championship game. But if I don't have that competitive team, it's specifically a series of questions of like, do I have an opportunity to get there in the immediate term? And if I do not, then I'm right there with you, right? Like I need to look at a different 3-year window because this is not one that I'm currently in.
Yeah. No, I love that for a first tip, Eric. And you got any more tips for us?
I do. You actually led into this one perfectly, and it is a fundamental tip. So I won't belabor the point, but you have to be able to take an objective look at your team and give an honest evaluation of where you are, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to do, especially in the dynasty game, right? These are pieces that you have cultivated and nurtured and raised from wee little rookies in the league. So it's hard to look at them and say that your baby's ugly, but sometimes your baby's ugly and you have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
So, it kind of doubles back to the point that you were making, but I do think that if you're not saying that, if you're not hearing that said frequently enough, it can easily kind of get pushed to the back burner. But you always need to have an honest evaluation of your team. And if you are not on an ascension, if you're not climbing towards being competitive, you really need to look at moving the other direction so that you can be competitive in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't. The way that I've kind of got used to evaluating the team is how many hypotheticals am I pinning onto this team? And the more like hypotheticals you have to nail on for you to be successful, then the worse your team probably is. You're like, oh well, like Chase Claypool, like if Deontay Johnson gets injured, then Chase Claypool will come in and he'll be the guy. And it's like the more hypotheticals you put onto your team, the less chance you probably have of winning. So I always think that's a good marker for evaluating your team and looking at it honestly.
That is precisely how I do it, right? I'll set what I believe to be my starting lineup and say, do I think this team can compete for a championship? And then as I start going through those hypotheticals, right? What if George Pickens takes over the job, right? Or if George Pickens takes the job, this team is a championship caliber team. If Dameon Pierce takes the job and George Pickens takes the job, right? So like as those layers of kind of prerequisites stack up, your likelihood of them actually coming to pass is going down with each layer you add on.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's, maybe one of the most important tips you can have in Dynasty is you got to be honest with that team and look at it objectively and see what you are able to do, or you have to start again, and there's no shame in that either. In fact, that's probably the most fun part of Dynasty. I love blowing teams up and starting again. Like it's one of the most fun ways that you can play Dynasty. That's why a lot of the times it's like, hey, anyone want to take over this orphan? It's an absolute dumpster fire. I'm like, I'll take it. It'll be fun. Like, I love the rebuild side of it. So yeah, there's no shame in
it. I kind of get myself in trouble with that too, because like if I have any doubt, if I am not 100% steadfast that this is a competitive team, I'll just err on the side of a rebuild too. Or if I think that there's like a market opportunity within my league where it's like I can probably get way more future value for my assets right now than I will be able to in a month or a season. Sometimes I'll take a pretty competitive team and just push it out a few more years because I can get a haul for the pieces that I have, because I think they have a primed market. So I'm right there with you, right? Like scrapping it and really building up fresh is a ton of fun. I probably do it a bit more than I realistically should.
Yeah, me too, probably. But it's fun, right? It's fun. That's why we play it, isn't it? It's fun. So that's the main reason that we all play. We play Dynasty. Yeah. So love that. First two tips, absolutely nailed it so far. Have you got a third tip for us, Eric?
I do have a third tip. It is also somewhat fundamental, and that is that activity is key. The more active you can be, I mean, the waiver wire is usually a bit picked over in the Dynasty format, but as we talk about your rookie drafts, as we talk about making trades and acquiring assets, the more trades, the more you can transact, the higher the likelihood is that you find yourself with a positive outcome, right? Like you see all of these like fantastical tales of how someone turned Sterling Shepard into Jonathan Taylor, right? They obviously did not trade Sterling Shepard for Jonathan Taylor, right? And to say that they are, 1 degree of separation removed from that is probably a farce as well, right? That's a trade that they made in 2019 that then gave them a piece that they packaged in 2020 that gave them another piece, and all of a sudden they have Jonathan Taylor, right? So you look at these teams that are really built and stacked for these 3-year runs of being competitive. It's because they've found incremental gains in the margins by being super active in the trade market.
Exactly. Yeah, I really like that. And, something that I'm finally over this, because the draft class came in this year and I was like, oh no. Because basically what I've done for the last 2 years is I've been trading everything away from this year's draft class to get next year's draft class.
Yeah.
And I've been doing everything I can to get 23 firsts. And that is sort of like a long-term kind of vision. And now, going into next season's draft, I can't wait. I've got, honestly, I think in all my league, I must have at least 50 23 firsts spread across all my leagues.
Go.
Just waiting to be picked off. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And just having that, having that plan in place and then acting on it. Like I say it on the show all the time, you don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, I would have given you more for that. It's like, you didn't. Like you weren't there, you weren't active. Like, don't be that guy that complains about a trade being this or that. Be the guy that does the trade.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And like I think the other side of that example with your war chest of 2023 first, which I'm incredibly jealous of, is like you have to have a really accurate gauge for the marketplace that is your league, right? If there's a team that's right there, you can probably give them a piece and a 2022 for 2023 first, right? Maybe as you're heading into rookie drafts, right? The current year's draft picks will never have a higher valuation than they will right before you draft this year's rookies, right? It's like you have to have your finger on the pulse. And the thing that I'll add to that is you have to be a considerate trade partner, right? Like if you go into every transaction trying to win that trade, it's not going to help you in the long run, right? There have been times where it's like, I'm kind of so on this trade. I think it's fair enough. I might even be slightly on the wrong side of it, but I think it sets up a really good trading relationship with this team that I want to work with, or it sets a precedent that in our dynasty league, I am the manager that is willing to get deals done, right? Third round draft picks are there to get deals done. If you're at a stalemate, throw in a third round draft pick and get the deal done, and you will be the first person that your league mates are texting when it's time for them to head into rebuild, when it's time for them to get that last piece or two for a championship run. So you really have to be willing to play the long game. And sometimes that means, being willing to stomach some short-term losses.
Yeah. There's usually never any point letting the trade blow up over a third or a fourth. Cause in the long run, everyone has got a story about a trade where they thought they lost it, and actually it turns out it was a slam dunk for them. And like things just switch around and turn around so often that you never really know. Like you could end up trading someone away for a first round pick and think, I probably should have given it away that first, and then that first ends up being Trey Sermon. You're like, like it didn't matter anyway. Like it's
right.
It's so hard to predict what's going to happen. So just go have fun, go get your guys, and don't worry too much about a third or a fourth here and there. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Remember, like this video, leave a comment if you want, and subscribe to the channel. These videos are going to be coming thick and fast, so you don't want to miss anything. So that's it for today. In the meantime, keep yourselves, keep your teams lit. We'll see you next time.